All going. Over to you, Shudipto.
Yep, all good. So then, without further ado, may we have the first affirmative to kick off this particular debate on the motion that as the captain, we would wear one love.
Hi, am I clearly audible?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So if at any point during my speech I cut off, I would like please request the speakers to just interrupt me. All right, okay. So starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The FIFA World Cup is going on. You are a non-binary person and you are an avid football watcher. Imagine the level of peace and comfort and respect that you will feel when you will see that the captain of the Wales team, that the captain of the national team is wearing the badge of one love, right? Imagine the level of respect you will have for that player, right? In our side of the world, we stand with the side which is actually morally correct. We stand with the side which is actually the courage to take a stand, right? And not be cowards and just stay silent, right? So some brief characterizations before I move on with the arguments. Understand that the football national team of Wales is not just a bunch of entertainers, right? They are not singers or they are not people who just entertain, right? These are people who are actually respected throughout the entire nation, right? These are people who are admired. The public actually follows them, right? The public does things, right? That's why you have the public, buying things that, for example, players like Ronaldo or Messi uses, right? So this is the significance of people, of players who play in the national team, right? These are not just ordinary people, and that their actions won't matter, right? Okay. So now moving on with the arguments from our side. First of all, I will talk about why this action matters, and second of all, I will talk about why this stands urgent and why this should be done in this particular World Cup as well, right? Okay. So why does this action matter? First of all, understand something. Staying silent or succumbing to pressure of the organizer is an action in of itself, right? So staying silent in this issue is not something which has neutral effect, right? It actually has a negative effect, which means that you are actually succumbing to this pressure, right? Just because Qatar is holding the World Cup, you're succumbing to pressure, you are backing down, right? Which means that you send that message to millions of people back home, millions of people in Wales, or millions of people around the world, that it's fine to stay in the closet, just because some things may or may not have benefits, right? So understand that it's a moral signaling that moral signaling or this message that you send is important, right? Also understand that the significance that this stand should be done over here, and this captain should wear the one love band over here, is the fact that Qatar is a country which actually poses significant threat to the LGBT community, right? So meaning that when the captain chooses to do this action in this World Cup itself and not any other match or any other World Cup, it's the fact that you actually give people that sense of safety, that sense of credibility. Like some actions may be taken and you are serious about this particular issue and you do not just choose to stay silent, right? Also, yeah, we realize that even if this change may not lead to some legal changes, but it's still the messaging that is important. It's still something that actually has significant value, right? Also understand something, that this is, just because you are a player of the national team, it does not mean your only duty to the nation does not just mean a good game or a good performance in tournament. It also means that you support, you represent those people, you represent their ideologies, right? You represent sportsmanship. That's why sportsmanship is so respected, right? You actually have people respecting players who are honest and who do not just go with the spirit of winning, right? You actually have your people respecting, for example, cricketers like Sachin, who when they realize that they are out, they actually leave the field and they don't just think about the performance, right? That's why sportsmanship is important, and that's why we believe that the duty of this of Gareth Bale is not just to represent Wales, it's not just to make sure that Wales wins the most number of tournaments, is to make sure that his team represents the ideologies of Wales and represents the people who are there inside, right? Okay. Also understand that we actually have players doing this well. We actually have, for example, Palestinian players actively protesting in games against Israelis, or even or even players doing the Black Lives Matter movement. You actually had players protesting, right? And even if we argue that it was mostly a symbolic gesture, we still believe it sent that message. We still believe it it pushed that that particular person who was not really concerned about this issue, push that person to know about the issue, push that person to not just stay ignorant in this particular issue. And that's why we think this action matters and something that should be done in this particular World Cup, right? Also Now moving on to the argument about why is this stand urgent, and why we think that this thing should be done in this World Cup, even if yes, we know that Wales has been in the World Cup after a really long time, but we still think that this stand is urgent and should be done, and in this, right? Because first of all, it sends an active message, and also understand that we like any other using any other loophole, like not wearing the one band and or just protesting in any other means is not that impactful. Why so, right? Because understand that there's an active restriction against the community. There's an active ban, like people are the FIFA has a regulation that if you wear this, you're likely to be sent off back to your nation, right? So understand that there's an active ban, there's more impact, right? Why so? Because now this captain Gareth Bale is actively sending the signal that you're actively oppressing actively opposing and actively against any of the oppression that the LGBT community has to face, right? Any form of discrimination the LGBT community has to face, right? So understand that even if other forms of alternatives may exist, other forms of protest may exist, we still think that this particular aspect is important, and it's something that will send a message, right? Also acknowledge that what is this message that we are talking about? This message is is something that's not just symbolic. It's something that will get the world talking about this issue, that will get the world to know more about this issue, about the types of discrimination that probably happens even outside Wales, that, and we believe that is something that will actually benefit people, right? Also note that as the captain of the Wales national team, you just don't want a good performance in the team. You want to be remembered. Every player wants to have a legacy, right? Every player wants to be remembered for something. So we believe that when you add this particular moral aspect to it, you as the captain, it's not just morally right. You will not have the moral regret, but you will also be remembered as the brave player, as the courageous player who did this for Wales, who represented his community and was incredibly proud to do this, right? Also, so why do we think this is something that's incredibly urgent, right? Understand that like games, football, like is unpredictable, right? You may have wins, you may have losses. We just had an upset a few days ago between, right? But like when you take, so it's not a surety, right? But this stance is a surety, right? Because when you take this stance, you tell people that I am, Gareth Bale tells people that that the Wales team is not okay with this, right? And this is why we believe this is something that incredibly important. Also understand, now with the best case, worst case scenario, understand what happens in their best case. Yes, Gareth Bale stays quiet, which has negative implications in and of itself, but there's no guarantee that Wales will do well, right? And even if Wales does well, it will be best left forgotten. We have many champions, right? But who remembers all of them? No one, right? However, even in our worst case scenario, yes, you may be sent back to your nation, but people will remember you, people will respect you. And Gareth Bale may have this post regret, but he will have the love of the people, and something that's important, right? Also, understand that this action is important, and like protesting with any other loophole like Germany did is something that will not be helpful. Also it's very important to note that even if Wales does wins or even just a decent position without this particular symbol, it means that they will send the signal that they're cowards, that they're not brave, and at best they will be forgotten after a few years. And it's something that we believe that should not be entertained, right? Very proud to propose.
We thank the first affirmative for that fine speech. Maybe now have the first negative to kick off the debate for Nick.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
All right, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, we still live in a world where we can see a lot of countries who are not comfortable with the LGBTQ community. We can see a lot of conflicts are going on still in related to this matter. And inside of situation, as FIFA has already their rules that countries cannot do this kind of stuff in this year's Qatar FIFA. In this situation, we are going to consider the whole situation from the perspective of the captain of the Wales team. Like this, we need to compare from his perspective and see the comparison. What will exactly going to happen if he wait the One Love batch, and what is going to happen if he doesn't? And after comparing and comparing the both decision, the best decision and is always we're going to say is not to wait. Exactly why. Look, first of all, whenever we are going to see from the perspective of the Wales captain. Firstly, we need to totally see that historically, if we see about what is in FIFA or what is exactly Wales' position in this is like we have seen like historically Wales is such a team that was was not a dominant team, and this team does not like donate any kind of donate or allocate any kind of single money in sports, and this kind of things are something that is like a huge point for the Wales. And another thing is like if you see like historically Wales as a nation or their teams, they are not very much outspoken. Like this can be about many various issues, but there we have seen them as not as a outspoken nation. So if you think from the captain's perspective, like what is exactly going to happen if he wastes it? First of all, as the FIFA, they have already announced like this kind of act may cause the player to be booked or sent off, and as if he still wastes this is some obviously going to happen is he may be sent off, and or this can happen that his team had to walk off, and thus this may cause the significant media outrage, and these things may lead to the causes of solidarity or the other nation may galvanize. Look, panel, in this kind of situation, from like if we compare the both situation, like obviously in both situation the captain he's obviously going to have the guilt that he may feel, but the amount of guilt is the matter of consideration is in in exactly which guilt is more important, and in which guilt he needs to avoid. First of all, obviously the guilt of not delivering one love, that's obviously going to affect with the level of attachment to his game, and the guilt of not playing this kind of guilt is obviously going to be so much more, because look, a player as he is the captain of the team, obviously as a part of his team they have this kind of level of attachment to his team, and that is so much bigger than this, and the blood sweat relationship he has built with his team, and he is sent off what will exactly happen to the team. Look, speaker, like he is not just any player or like any part, he's not just any ordinary player of the team, he is someone, he is the captain of the team, and we all know the captains, they are the backbone of the team, they are the pillars of the team. So in this kind of situation, if the captain he is sent off, this kind of situation is going to hamper the whole team he might broke off, and the amount of responsibility that is in his shoulder, that's so much bigger than this, and this kind of personal motivation that he has for his team to do the best for your country, to do the best for your team, because we have already seen like 7 European countries they decided to they'll be wearing this thing, but after like the announcement, the other nations, the other teams, they have reversed their previous decision. So in this kind of scenario where we have already seen like Wales, they were not historically a dominant team, or they don't allocate money, or they are not even so much outspoken. If Wales, they are the only country like they are now they are doing so, this is going to create much more harms than the benefits, and the personal responsibility, the personal motivation that he feels for his country, for his team, that's so much more. And the personal motivation to do for the best for the country and the team is so much more. And this single act of rebellion is not going to do anything. Even if he like waits this ban to the World Cup, and exactly is this how much impact this is going to actually make? This single act of rebellion isn't going to do anything, because this may be like he maybe feel disillusion, like even if he see like where's those, and he see like other nations, they are not exactly reacting the way he thought they would, or like other people, they are not exactly taking the steps that he expected, that after his decision they might take, everything is going to be so much delusional, because then he'll be thinking why anything is happening. And as we can already see, like the Qatar, they are corrupted, the FIFA they are already corrupted, and in this kind of situation doing in such a this kind of step is so not something very much such a good decision. And the player, the captain of the Wales, he may feel like he has generated this kind of media outrage and like if he weighs that and he was sent off to his country back then, it's not just something about his only career. Look, whenever he comes back, he's going to get the pressure from the government. He's going to have the whole pressure from the whole nation, because whenever the FIFA comes, the whole nation waits for their country to do something, and then they have this kind of it feels like the whole nations, they have come together for this kind of event. And like when he gets sent off to their country, the whole government, they're not going to see this something as a very good thing, because it might going to hamper the relationship with Qatar and to them, and it might also create the national pressure, and that's going to obviously going to hamper his career. So we think from his perspective, the captain's perspective, is this decision voted, like hampering all of these things, is it voted? And obviously no. And even if he like waits and he is sent back to his country and there's media outrage, he might feel the imposter syndrome. Like he might feel like he's a, even if he's a big supporter of the LGBT community, he might feel like there's a whole world they're talking about it. So this all thing is happening just because of he was sent back off. It's not happening because the LGBTQ community, they deserve this kind of attention, and this is something that is going to cause more harm than good. And if you talk about the PM, what the affirmative team have already talked about, how they have talked about how this action matter, and how much a significant value, like it's a duty, and how staying silent in this issue is such a negative effect. But we have to think this very much from the Wales captain's perspective. This is something that is going to like affect his career. This is something that's going to affect him very personally also. And we have already seen the other nations, whatever they are doing, like the other European nations, they have come to the game to win, and they are doing everything, and they have already revised their previous decision. And even in this situation, whatever they are, the PM, they have talked about and considered, it's not just they're not exactly thinking from the captain's perspective. And the second thing that they have talked about, like exactly why he will be remembered and everything. But look, everything he's obviously going to firstly think about his career and the threat from the government, and exactly how the whole team is going to shatter. So obviously, if you think about the captain's perspective, he's not going to wear the one bats. Thank you.
I thank the first NEG for that fine speech, and now to extend the case for side F, maybe have the second affirmative.
Am I perfectly audible?
Yep, you're all.
Okay, let me set the timer there. Okay, starting in 3. Okay, am I clear? Like, is this clear to everyone?
Yep.
Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1. Right to love someone despite their gender, despite their opinion, and having that voice heard and being represented is a fundamental human right you are born with. Neither FIFA, nor Qatar, nor any other country or the religion in the world have a right to take that away from you. And you silently complying with their ban is spitting on their face and kicking them in the guts about their rights, because you're also complying with their rules, complying with their oppression of banning the voice. Right, what you are doing by staying silent is complying with oppression of Qatar on these people. Well, what does that narrative looks like in our world? You are taking a stand against it. Qatar doesn't need to change. What needs to change is people in this Middle Eastern country feeling validated. Understand, it isn't about the Muslims of, it isn't about the LGBTQ people of your own country. It's also about the people in the Muslim communities such as Qatar or Saudi Arabia. They also feel validated. Look, in our heart, someone is taking a stand for us, making our voices be heard. In your own country, people are feeling that too. Look, this World Cup, where everyone stayed silent about our rights, you took the stand, you stood for us, and which is why we're much more likely to be loved, right? And why is love more important? Because everyone is there not for the World Cup, not for the trophy, but mostly for the love and glory it brings. You want to have a legacy, you want to be loved, and understand this, it matters how you gain that love and how it impacts it, right? So we're going to give you 3 structural analysis as to why. First is the love by standing standing against oppression by versus the love by winning the World Cup, right? Which is more important, which is more impactful. But overall, we are going to thank you. Why it is your fundamental responsibility as a captain to do that, right? So starting off, first let's talk about love in the first. Like, what's gonna happen when you take the stand? First of all, as my PPL stated, these people are social icons. They have a huge impact and influence over here. Understand this? Everyday life, we try to mimic the people we love, the people we admire, such as celebrities, sportsmen. We follow their example, we follow their practices, and that is why sportsmanship is always highlighted and glorified in the sports world. Why? Because it creates an impact. Because sports isn't just about winning or match or entry, it's about social values. These people are icons of the society and they teach people values. We'll take a stand against that. You do two things. First, you're telling the world that look, this isn't right, and I am not going to comply with it. Secondly, it inspires the people, inspires your fans to act better, to be a better human, and to stand against oppression. It makes the fans of it makes the LGBTQ fans feel validated, their voice is being heard. The voice that was being silenced. And understand this, the op may come here and say, look, you can do this in any other way. And I'm gonna say, no, you can't do it any other except this way, because the flag is the representative of their voices and they have banned the flag, they have banned the voices, and you need to stand up and say these voices cannot be banned. And this is the only way to do that. And this is why it is most impactful and you need to do it. You're the captain of a team. You're the captain of a team that is loved by the people. You're the captain of a team that is here for the second time in the World Cup. And as a result, you have a much more impact doing it than any other fucking team, right? But overall, even if that's not the case, look, why is this important? You as a captain should do it. What benefit does it have for you as an individual actor? Happiness. Look, even if you win the World Cup, at the end of the day, at the end of the back of your mind, you're still going to feel guilty. I won the World Cup at what cost? By silencing the voice, by complying the silent voices of the people, by complying with the silence of my LGBTQ fans, by complying the oppression of Qatar on and by complying the oppression of LGBTQ community as a whole. But compared to the alternative, what would happen even if you don't win the World Cup, even if you're disqualified, you're still going to feel morally happy. Understand this? In their world, you feel guilty. The guilt eats you up inside. In our world, you feel regretful about not winning the World Cup. And World Cup happens every year, right? You can still go again another year, right? And there's only 8 countries in the world won the World Cup. Not everyone wins the World Cup. You may not even win it. Listen, even if you don't win the World Cup, Ghana is still loved. Your country is still loved. Your teams are still loved. Why? Because of the values, because of what you do. You're still going to be loved either way, and you're going to be loved more if for that stand, because you represented your people, because you represent what is right, because you stood up for what's right and standing against what's wrong, right? So you're going to be more popular, more loved. And why is this important? Because it's gonna make you feel satisfied at the end of the day. You're gonna go to sleep thinking I did the right thing. Even if you have the regret of not winning the World Cup, you're not going to feel guilty. And understand this, guilt is a stronger emotion. It makes you feel more unhappy. It destroys you from the inside. It affects your morality and every decision. It affects your self-worth. While regret doesn't do that. Regret makes you feel like, oh, I couldn't do that. Understand, these sportsmen are already trained to deal with regret. Why? Because they have lost a lot of time in their life. They know how to deal with loss. Like, they know how to deal with defeat. But which is why guilt is going to have much more severe impact on their mental health. Which is why I believe that, look, choosing to not stand is a better alternative for you. But even if that's all not the case, why you as a captain should do it, right? You're a captain. You represent your people. You represent your team. You represent your nation. You have a right and a responsibility to represent the values of your nation, to represent your people, to represent the voices of your people. And understand this, Qatar is actively silencing the voices of a certain portion of your fans and people, right? And that is entirely not wrong, and you should not play it, right? What are the impacts of doing that? First level of impact is, look, you're inspiring people. You may even inspire other teams, right? What does the side government tell, opposition tells, look, well, one person's action cannot change anything. I think that's entirely untrue, because we have seen that in LBL batches, like when players like Mayers Leonard or Kalin Kepner took a knee against the national anthem. They make a statement against the Black Lives Matter movement. It inspired people to act. It validated the people in the validated the Black community and increased their love for them. Right? These are the actions that inspires people. We have seen them when people of Egyptian teams took the Palestinian flag and raised them high in front of the media as a protest against Israel. Why is this important? Why it is highlighted so much? Because they took a stand against oppression. They are never hated. Even if it came at the cost of disqualification, they were never hated and they came back again and they stayed happy. Why is that? Because they took a stand against something that was wrong. It gave them the conscience they needed. It gave them the happiness they needed. And overall, it helped people more to feel validated, to feel heard, to feel represented. And why does it matter to the people? Because these people are minority whose rights have been constantly violated, throughout the world, throughout Qatar, and you're taking a stand in the heartland of one of the nations that's responsible for it, right? You are taking a stand while other nation states are, yes, FIFA took a stand. Said, yes, FIFA like changed their ways and said we're not gonna do that, but that was still a wrong move, right? Understand this. Every other team stayed silent because of the managers and wants the power, cared more about the money than the rights, cared more about getting the views by playing than the rights of the people. But the people on the ground did not want it. They were unhappy, and you're taking a stand for these people. Why is this important? Because it not only affects your popularity by increasing it more, but it also means that you may get more investors due to the popularity. Even if these are all the capitalistic cases, right? These are in general what's more important, right? What's more important is the morality of it and how it brings you happiness, right? And we have shown you on 3 layers why it's going to make you happy. First of all, it's going to give you the satisfaction. You're going to fulfill your duty to the people, to these people, to have them heard, have them represent. You're going to be a shiny example for the next generation. People are going to look up to you, and they are going to remember not for the people that won the World Cup, but someone who took a stand against an oppressive regime, who took a stand against oppressive rules. So that is going to be legacy, right? And that's going to what makes you feel happy in the longer run. It's going to help you feel not guilty and morally happy the longer run, which is more important than any other World Cup, because these are pragmatic trophies. This doesn't give you the happiness you can over such things, right? Why? Because look, you may not even win the World Cup. There is no assurance that you will win the World Cup, right? Understand the Wales haven't won the World Cup in a longer time. There is no assurance you will win the World Cup. What's gonna happen is, in the worst case scenario, you're gonna come back feeling guilty of not winning the World Cup and regretful of standing of supporting an oppressive regime, right? Both guilts are there. In our worst case scenario, where you do not win the World Cup, you at least feel satisfied. No, I did the right thing. Which is why you believe we are the best house in this debate, and we take this debate home. Thank you.
I thank the speaker for that fine speech. May we now have the second neg to extend the case for neg.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep, you're audible.
Okay, if at any point you can hear me, just interrupt me in the middle of the speech. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Panel, to the 1 billion people who tune in to watch the World Cup, football is like a religion. Unfortunately, FIFA is its evil Catholic Church and Qatar is their primary agent of proselytization. We think that it's easy to speak from a position of relative privilege, such as us, who don't have to make this decision, to use a singular individual as a battering ram of change against such an oppressive and such a pervasive organization. But real life is more difficult than that. And we don't think that we should put the burden of going against such an organization on the shoulders of one individual. An individual who has personal motivations and personal connections with their teammates, which are extremely significant, not responded to under their side of the house whatsoever. So 2 issues then in my speech and why we win those. Number 1, on the idea of outcomes for the LGBTQ movement. Secondly, on the idea of the personal motivations and what really matters to the actor in this debate, which is Gareth Bale, right? So firstly, on the idea of outcomes for LGBTQ movement, there are 3 parts to this. Number 1, let's talk about Wales in and of themselves and what is your ability to affect a significant amount of change as a representative of that country. We've given you 4 structural reasons why it's likely not going to be good. Firstly, because Wales is historically not a dominant team, which means their ability to dominate in FIFA World Cup tournaments and gain significant amount of viewership and revenue for FIFA that way is significantly limited. Secondly, they do not have a star-studded squad, which means their ability to generate revenue through merchandise and shirt sales is also significantly limited, which means that FIFA's incentive to get money like from merchandise out of Wales is also significantly limited. Thirdly, we think that Wales does not donate or allocate a significant amount of money and resources towards FIFA development projects. So we don't think that that positive relationship also exists to begin with. But fourthly, we don't think Wales is as outspoken in global politics as other countries like, for example, Germany, England, or Spain, which, by the way, despite being so politically active, politically active and outspoken, they chose not to wear the One Love armband simply because the World Cup meant that much to them. Which means you, as a representative of a country like Wales, your ability to effect a significant amount of change with this singular act of rebellion is significantly limited. But secondly, and more importantly, we see a huge, a massive mechanistic leap from their side as to how these these other teams are essentially going to come forward and give support to Gareth Bale to begin with, because these are countries who previously agreed not to wear the One Love armband. That presumably means that these are countries who care about the World Cup and their World Cup campaign enough to not support the LGBTQ movement. We don't understand how a singular act of rebellion is going to galvanize all of these teams to come forward and actually do that change to begin with, but we're still going to debate on the best case scenario. So what is the probable scenario then? The probable scenario is that you're probably going to get sent off, and you probably won't be able to enact a significant amount of change, which means that given that this singular act of rebellion, which does not result in good outcomes but comes at immense personal cost, if you weigh that up, it means that to the actor in this debate is significantly worse under their side of the house. But secondary, let's take them at their most likely case, that maybe the entire Wales team is going to follow suit in solidarity and going to wear the One Love armband or walk off with Gareth Bale, right? What happens then? We hear that in that scenario, Wales's entire World Cup campaign is going to be jeopardized, which means that there's an enormous sunk cost that exists because they spent so much money in preparing for that World Cup campaign that it simply disappears. But secondarily, FIFA can just frame them as the scapegoat of this situation, right? They can frame Wales as people who are trying to bring politics into sport and trying to ruin the beautiful sport that is football, which means that it's going to be significantly difficult for you to overturn that narrative, particularly because there are so many other every other team out there is not doing the same thing that you are. But secondly, let's take them at their absolute best, that probably it's going to force so many other teams to actually follow suit and wear the One Love armband or speak out against these things in the first place, right? Three reasons why this is still worse. Firstly, FIFA can still say that, hey, you agreed before, why are you changing it right now? It literally shifts the discussion away from LGBTQ movement and towards due procedure, because then FIFA can talk about legal proceedings as to how they previously agreed to not doing this in their own property, which is this stadium, the fact that they're organizing this World Cup in the stadium, and away from LGBTQ movement and the rights to have their voices heard. But secondarily, we don't think that in the vast majority of cases, as regrettable as it is, the majority of the fan base doesn't care about LGBTQ movement that much. That is not to say that they're anti-LGBTQ, but rather they simply do not want politics to come into sport, which they think should stay apolitical, and that is the beauty of it, right? So we think that the kinds of support that they're talking about, the support of sportsmanship or the support of future generations who are going to take care of you, is probably not there to begin with. So under that clash, they clearly lose because they're unable to prove why any of this results in positive outcomes. Whereas under our side, at least we can have other sorts of alternatives which probably don't have immense amounts of personal cost to the actor in this debate. Things like journalism, things like direct donations from your ticket sales to LGBTQ movement, things like interviews, which are harder for FIFA to regulate because of things like their freedom of speech, right? Or the fact that you can actually slam FIFA for banning One Love, things that England are already doing, right? So secondarily, the most important issue in this debate, as to the personal motivations of the actor. Listen, we think that in the vast majority of in the vast majority of scenarios, we think that it's easy to prove that a certain actor is probably going to be altruistic. We agree, but we think that the captain in this scenario probably still has a lot of selfish motivations and personal motivations, which are significantly important to him. What is this? He is literally a superstar. He's the only superstar in his entire team, and there is past precedent of him literally fighting tooth and nail to bring his nation to major international tournaments, whether it's the Euro, the Nations League, or the World Cup, which means he has a huge personal motivation towards himself to be that beacon or to be that trailblazer who leads his team into these major international tournaments, because his team is historically bad at them, right? Which means that every single match that he plays is important, which means that if he's sent off for even a single match, it is deeply antithetical to his personal motivation, which means that the kinds of guilt that he feels that he probably failed himself and all the hard work that he put on the training ground, probably honing his top speed or honing his shot, is going to significantly prick him because he feels like he failed himself. That feeling of internal alienation is significantly important. But secondarily, the emotional attachment that you have towards your teammates is significantly important, and more proximate than the attachment that you feel to, for example, LGBTQ individuals who you probably haven't spent the majority of your life with. Because for three reasons. Number one, you spent more time doing a shared activity with your teammate, which means you probably have more memories with your teammates, which are probably good or probably bad, but that probably means you're far closer to them emotionally. But secondarily, there's a lots of mutual respect and dependence between you and your teammates. Your entire career depends on your defender being able to defend well so that you can score that goal and gain that advantage to begin with. But thirdly, the guilt over betraying your teammates who might not feel the same way about LGBTQ issues as you are is probably going to ruin future interactions in training sessions, before matches, in halftime, that you're going to have with your teammates, which means the fact that you're literally going against your friends, you're betraying them, friends who put so much trust on you as their captain to lead them, and who fought tooth and nail for you, that is going to be significantly worse, because we think that the proximity effect of you seeing them every single day, seeing their dejected face, or probably seeing them pretend that it's okay when you know that it's really not, is going to hurt you even significantly more than any kind of guilt under their side of the house. But lastly and most importantly, even if all of your rebellion succeeds, even if you get support, we think that it results in you going through imposter syndrome, because you think that people are outraged not because of LGBTQ people, but because you yourself got sent off, which means you feel like you are the victim in all of this, and that imposter syndrome and survivor's guilt that you feel under their side of the house, even if you care about LGBTQ movement, is likely going to be significantly worse and neutered. For all these reasons, I've never been prouder to negate.
I thank the speaker for a fine speech. Now, may we have the third affirmative speaker to close the constructive for the side out.
Am I perfectly audible?
Yep.
Okay, so give me some time to fix my timers and then I'll start my speech. Am I loud and clear though? Like, is my accent all right?
Sorry?
Is my accent all right? Like, is it easily understandable? Like, is there any kind of problem?
Yeah, you're perfectly understandable.
Okay. So this is Abir Hasan Rahi representing BRAC 1 and the government whip, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So first of all, myself as a captain of the English Wales team in FIFA World Cup, I would wear the One Love band, because first of all we have to I will just first of all go through the rebuttals like yellow and the yellow have tried to initiate it, and then I will just go through my points and try to utilize what I'm trying to what my team has been trying to say the whole debate. First of all, the people the government team might come and say that yes, if we wear the One Love band, then there would have been some issue that might have been created, that it may be disrespectful for the country, or it may be disrespectful for the host country. But the thing is, yes, there is another kind of problems that might go on, that yes, Qatar operates the mind play to win, but why people can fight in other ways too, rather than just not wearing the armaments, such as the way that Germany did. But we will try to show you in this debate why these things are not impactful at all, and why these things doesn't even create the differences at all. First of all, we have to say about what the things that Elo have been saying all the time, and they've been saying that the FIFA, there has been a long conflict was going on with the LGBTQ communities, and we have to see it from the Wales team captain point of view or perspective. First of all, they are trying to say that yes, Wales is not a dominating team, so if they do this thing, they have to work out from the team. First of all, this thing representing Wales in the this thing is, they are not dominating the team, and they are taking this decision, which decision is not taken by the more stronger countries out there, is more important in this scenario, because this will make actually the major difference that he has. Despite being a small country, they have the guts to represent, they have the guts to say the truth, and they have the guts to stand in front of the operation that they are in front of the ideology that the Qatar authority have been trying to force to impose on the FIFA all the time, has been this going on right now. And the thing they have been trying in saying that he's the captain of the team, it will be a huge trial on the team. First of all, the main thing that overcomes this scenario is that the fact is that he's the captain of the world's team. If he wears the One Love band, that thing will be actually more impactful in the whole field out there. Then the third thing that the leader of opposition have been trying to say, that yes, it's a single thing and it will have no impact at all. It's something is better than never, right? You are seeing that the larger teams, despite having they're supporting the LGBTQ, they're claiming that they support LGBTQ communities, but for the sake of their own for the sake of their own I would say selfishness, they're not supporting that, and they're not standing in favor of the truth. So the thing is that actually this single thing will have no impact. But the thing, when you will actually try, it's not about you are not standing up does not necessarily mean that you are creating the change or something. It's all about setting an example. Understand, the captain of Wales team, no one is forcing him. He does not need to bring the change. There are 7 other teams playing. It's what he does and how it impacts him. Our rights outweigh any one of the economical stuff that have been mentioning by the DLO and in his speeches right now. And what they did was wrong. The fact that superpowers stayed silent and a lone nation took a stand is a better decisions in our opinion. And these countries took the decisions based on money, not the people's they need. And it's not about the change, it's all about the message. First of all, these decisions is not the decision of not wearing the armband is not taken by the captain. This is taken by the managers of the world's team. So you weren't liable to hold of the decisions that violates others' rights decisions out there. Like the DLO have been trying to say one point that yes, this is the individual motivational burden. Like while you were like representing the world's team in the international tournament, like why would you do this specific thing right now? But the thing is that you are standing up in favor of your people. There are a lot of peoples of LGBTQ communities in the world as well. This thing is that your teammate will actually respect you for standing up for what they have what they should have been done and what the other countries should have been done too. It will rather also, you weren't liable to hold the decisions that violate others' rights. Germany did not take a stand because it isn't their interested of Qatar. It will rather harm the flow of cash or pay back the cost of the World Cup infrastructure that the Qatar is trying to impose. In absolute worst case, when you were banned, your team also, like you were saying that yes, by doing this, actually like I was banned and like we are not winning this competition. First of all, have to understand the fact that football is a pretty unpredictable game, and where you were saying that any type of things can happen. Like if you can play good, you can actually win the tournament, or if you, like there is nothing that you can do actually. Like anything can happen. So in this way, there is also a slightly fair chance that you might not pass the group stage, and you might also like in our worst case scenario, we are even saying that like you pass the group, you were a team who were capable to pass the group stage, but because of the thing that you were by getting banned. But the thing is that you are trying to understand. We have to understand the fact that yes, despite saying that, despite being like understandable and being vocal about the fact that yes, you are standing right upstand against with your policies right there, so you still feel the righteous. When you are banned, your team don't win, you still feel righteous, and this thing and this win will not be eaten up by your guilt. Germany, they have been trying to understand the thing is like yes, we are not wearing the armband, but we are celebrating using our like mouth shut and everything. But the thing is, this thing is actually not creating like, if we compare the two events, like wearing the love band itself versus this kind of like pseudo like representative policy, this thing actually don't like occur that much in the major procedure. First of all, this thing actually like, if we become respectful, then why likely, if we can say the example about like why would we necessarily think that yes, if Bale wears the one love armband, then it will be harmful for him? No, the thing is that we as a team, we are not, they will respect me for my bravery. No, yes, we are here for the win to tournament, everyone is here for the win the tournament, but yes, your team will be respected and glorified. Even the thing that even if you don't get a fair chance to win the tournament, you will have your fair share of fame and respect and glory. The thing that like the same thing we do for like all the teams that do the good work. Like if we get just setting an example, like it's not necessarily being related to this. If you're saying that like Japan team like being punctual and basically being organizing about their team selves, being modesty does not like, they does not necessarily be fact that yes, they are also here to win that cup, right? But these things especially like keeps them uplifted, like it helps them to it portrays them as they're like more they are defining of their more sportsmanship, and this media fame also helping their popularity as well, right? So the thing is the Wales will also pay the same thing. Your team will be respected and glorified. And like if we like the say the same thing, like if Vinicius Junior was not sent off, then he will not be the one like who was like being angry with the other teammates as well, right? So we have to understand like what the dealer have been trying to say, that Wales is not a start squad, and so it's not economically economically it's not a well enough procedure, so that and they will just face the other teams, and like this thing like wearing the one love armband will actually harm the team. First of all, World Cup means much to them, and Wales does not give the money to the FIFA. There is no like economical good relations between them. First of all, this thing is not necessarily as important to the debate, because if you are standing against the World Cup, what the thing have been trying to they are trying to impose on the thing. This thing will not necessarily frame Wales. This decision is imposing on the players themselves, so emotional attachment will not be damaged as well. So yes, we know that Bailey is the only hope for Wales. So even in our worst case scenario, if we are even not to play for the finals, it will eventually gain us our huge respect, and we are playing to win, but the sportsmanship and the values is more important in our case and in our procedure. So we are not just an entertainer but also a like figure, so it's morally imperative. If we don't wear the armband, it will be more important in our cases. So yes, we are gladly to like propose the debates, and yes, I'm happy to propose.
I thank the speaker for that fine speech. Maybe now have the third neck to close the constructive section of this debate.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
All right, just give me a minute. I'll just organize my notes and we'll start my speech. Am I visible, by the way?
Yep, you're visible.
All right. All right. Starting my speech in 3, 2, and 1. What is the trade-off that they talk about? The trade-off that they talk about is, all right, maybe I might be kicked out of World Cup, but at least I will have love from my people, right? But the problem is, it is just a claim that they make that the people will, the captain will get a lot of love. But why this is true, there is literally no mechanism, even after multiple layers of responses by my second negative speaker. So what were they? Number one, it is not true, right? Because first of all, we don't live in a world where everyone is progressive and everyone is liberal, right? That is to say, there will be people who will be anti-LGBTQ community, who will show backlashes and hatreds towards Gareth Bale. Number one. Second of all, even if there are some people who are of the LGBTQ community, supporting LGBTQ community, there will be people that they are fan of Gareth Bale. Now, why are they fan of Gareth Bale? Is it because of his social activistic stance? No. Their fan of Gareth Bale is simply because of his football, right? That is to say, they have an interest to see Gareth Bale performing in the World Cup. Maybe not winning the World Cup, but at least they want to see Wales performing in the World Cup because it is an historical event, because Wales is participating in the World Cup after so long time. The moment you actually do this sort of things, and as a result of that, you just cannot play or your team gets completely kicked out of the tournament, we believe the fans who literally wanted to see you in that tournament gets upset. Now, why is this important? Because it is the fan who gives you the most amount of love. It is the fan whom you monetize and try to make your money from. It is the fan who gives you the highest amount of recognition. We believe you like piss off a lot of the fans of a lot of the fans of like Wales Football Club, right? So that is a significant harm that happens, and that doesn't ensure you love. Rather, it ensures in resentment in their side of the world, right? And most importantly, there are people who supports LGBTQ community, right? But still there. Even the people who supports LGBTQ community, there are some people who still believes that if you are going in some country, there will be some law, and you even consent to that law. You said, all right, I will follow the law. The moment you break the law, even some people who supports LGBTQ community will be upset and say, all right, well, you are trying to support us, but what you are doing is literally breaking a law of a country that you consented to follow, right? So which proves that the unconditional love that they are claiming do not happen in their side of the world, right? The love that you get from some people, but their claim is untrue, that I have proven with my responses. Now, let's come to the second issue, right? What matters to the like Gareth Bale the most, right? As an actor motion, they really need a to respond that they never responded to this mechanism. First of all, already my second net explicitly tells you the historical background of Gareth Bale and why he has worked a lot to put his country in the World Cup, right? So he has more interest in football than doing a movement for LGBTQ community. They needed to disprove this mechanism, which they never did. Second of all, they give you second of all, we have already told you how much blood and blood and sweat they needed to give in getting to this World Cup, right? They worked a lot to get chance in this World Cup, right? So as a captain, the World Cup matters to the Gareth Bale much significantly more than doing a protest that will literally kick them out out from the World Cup. That is to say, they really need to weigh in why their side of the claims are much more important, and also needed to prove why all of these things happen, right? Now, the next issue, guilt comparison, right? Yes, you might feel guilt, right? At the very best case scenario of their side of the world, but still but why the intensity of guilt is significantly higher in our side of the world. You feel guilt more when you are more emotionally invested in something. Why is this analysis important? Because in my previous comparison, I have already shown you why you are more emotionally invested in football, because that's a profession and that's what you invest yourself in, right? So that's why, one, you are more invested in football. Second of all, you are more invested with the players that you are playing with, right? So you have a bond and emotional connection. As a result of your action, it's not only you that you are going to suffer, it is also your teammates that are going to suffer who worked with you in this context, right? That means that you will feel much more guilt as you have much more emotional connection with the player, you have much more emotional connection with the football. That is to say, the intensity of the guilt is significantly higher in their side of the world rather than in ours. Now, at the very best case scenario of the side affirmative, even if you want to show support to the LGBTIQ community, first of all, we never say this is a tokenistic support, right? That can be a great form of support. But the problem is there are other ways to achieve the same goal that doesn't result in the consequences that I have already mentioned. We have already shown you the significant harm of the actor that will going to happen, the harms Gareth Bale is going to face, right? But for doing such movement, we have already mentioned you, if you want to do the movement, you earn a lot of money, right? So you can definitely funds a lot of movement. Second, you can also do journalism, social media journalism, and you even can you do not need to break the law, right? You can definitely have discourse in social media about why it is important, and it is not your last game, right? So you are going to play other game for your club, and you are also going to play for Wales as well. That is to say, you have much more opportunity to talk about this scenario in our side of the world. Now, lastly, try to understand this. It has been a long journey for Wales to get chance in the World Cup, right? Which is to say, it doesn't guarantee that in the next World Cup you will be an automatic choice. The very moment you create this bad blood with FIFA by breaking its own rule, after consenting to it, the chances of you again representing your team in the World Cup gets significantly low, right? Now, why is this important? Because one, it is your teammates who will going to have resentment towards you. It is going to be the fans of the Wales football team and the people of the Wales who will be very much resentful towards you. And third of all, it is going to be FIFA who will also be resentment towards you, and you will face a significant backlash for this, and can represent your country. But in our side of the world, if you just participated in the World Cup, which is a significant achievement in and itself, we believe in the next World Cup, Wales will be more motivated, and there will be a trend, a cycle of motivation for the next generation football teams to do good, so that they can also play for their football team. It will incentivize other youth to be as competent as Gareth Bale, which could happen after a historic incident in our side of the house. But in their counterfactual, when you just literally get kicked out of World Cup, we believe that sets a negative precedence for future generation to participate in the football in the first place. We are extremely proud to negate and we win this debate by a landslide. Thank you.
Thank the speaker for that fine speech that also effectively ends the constructive section of this debate. Now for the reply speeches, may we first have the negative reply speaker to deliver a speech not exceeding 4 minutes and 15 seconds.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep, you are.
Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1. The biggest problem in affirmatives debate is that they view the actor in this debate not as a real person with real motivation and incentives, but as a battering ram for social change. We agree that it is important to have a voice and to be that silent voice of rebellion, or to be that singular voice of rebellion against injustice. We just don't think that this is the best way to do it, particularly given that it's an actor motion and there is significant personal cost to the actor in doing this to not significant outcomes under their side of the house. Even still, I will take them at their absolute best and show why we still won this debate purely based on the actor of this debate, right? So let's assume that with this singular act of rebellion, you're going to have lots of teams, particularly the 7 teams in Europe who decided not to do it, are suddenly just going to be like, okay, let's go and like wear the One Love armband right now. We've given you 3 systematic harms that happen to the actor like in this particular scenario. Number one, the fact that there's a significant amount of the fan base who probably doesn't care about politics in the beautiful sport that is football, right? Not necessarily anti-LGBTQ, but people who feel like football should be apolitical, and that is the beauty in it. Which means that FIFA now has more leverage, again, analysis that we gave unresponded to paint other individuals who or other teams who wear this One Love armband as the bad guys, right? Or to paint them as entities who are trying to disrupt the beautiful sport. This means that directly towards the actor, there's going to be a significant amount of internal conflict as to whether or not that singular act of rebellion was good in and of itself. Because presumably, this is an actor who also cares about the World Cup, right? I mean, this is an actor who literally led their nation to international major trophies like the Euros, the Nations League, and now this World Cup, right? So they're probably likely to empathize with what these fans are feeling, and they're probably likely to feel extremely disillusioned to the extent that we've explained that if the outcomes aren't significant enough, that personal cost is enough to make them feel that disillusionment. But secondly, and more importantly, we've told you that even if it succeeds, the actor is likely to go through immense amounts of imposter syndrome, right? The fact that they will feel that all of this traction is happening is because people are outraged that he got sent off, right? Headlines are talking about how he got sent off, and the discussion is essentially getting shifted from the struggles of the LGBTQ movement, which means that if the actor really does care about LGBTQ issues to the extent that affirmative would like them to believe, these sorts of mental harms and these sorts of feeling of disillusionment and feeling of imposter syndrome not only neuters the actor's future ability to be an agent of change, but it's also a significant amount of harm in the present that just accumulates and accumulates, right? But secondly, a huge chunk of argument, literally the most important part of this debate that they did not engage to, right? We were extremely comparative in saying that yes, probably guilt exists on both sides of the house, but we told you that the guilt that you feel from backing out of the commitment that you shared with your teammates is likely going to be much more significant, and it's likely going to be much more intense, not only because of the personal motivation that you have to lead your nation to the World Cup and probably achieve a good outcome, but also because of the fact of the proximity effect, right? The fact that you see your teammates every single day, you spend so many memories with them, and there's this emotional attachment, the sense of respect and dependence within your teammates, which means that the effects of that betrayal of not playing that one match, which we've shown to have catastrophic results or catastrophic consequences, because in a World Cup literally anything can happen, something which they agree to, by the way, because they say it's very volatile. We are able to prove to you that that proximate effect, the fact that you see your teammate pretending to be okay when you know that they're really not, is going to be significantly worse for you mentally speaking, which means every single time you go to the dressing room at halftime or before a match, you see your teammates, your future interactions with them are significantly worse, and the guilt you feel is likely to be more intense and more pervasive, because we think that we shouldn't have one personal actor be a battering ram of change against a near religious organization that's so powerful. We are very proud to negate.
I thank the speaker for that fine speech. And now to end this debate as a whole, maybe have the affirmative reply speaker.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, then starting in 3, 2, 1. First, a few things to clear out, right? The side of opposition misses the DPM speech because we clearly said, look, we have brought you the example of Maya Leonard, Calvin Kepner, right? The NBA players who took a knee on the national anthem. What did happen? They weren't hated by their team. They weren't hated by the players. They immortalized as heroes. They were praised by the team and everyone else. So the thing that you're talking about, he has less likely of a chance to happen because taking a stand against something their team had already decided on. There's something that we have to look through the motions first. So we urge them to look through the motions. That is something that had already been decided by the teams that they would do that. The only reason that they changed the decision was because the FIFA changed without their consent, without agreeing with them, and it is imposed on them. There is something also DPM points out that look, you don't have to agree with this. Both me, the Prime Minister, and the whip constantly tell you that look, you don't have to follow the instruction of FIFA because you are not liable for it. It's a corrupt organization agreed by both parties. It's something that is hungered after money and made the decision, and we do not have to be liable. We don't have to sacrifice our morality for it. Right? There's a clear mechanism we give it. We also give you two structural layers of mechanism. First layer is that why you should do it. As a captain, you represent your nation more than your team. You represent the hopes and dreams of your fans more than your team because they're your sponsors, because they look up to you, because you have an influence on their lives and how they act in their lives. That means you have a more of a moral obligation to them to do what's the right thing over here. But overall, even if that's not the case, on a personal basis, in which world you're more likely to feel happy. In our absolute worst case, where you do not win the World Cup, where no change happens, you still go back home satisfied. I did the right thing. I did what I was supposed. Yes, you feel regretful, but you do not feel guilty. There are two different emotions you would feel. Like you do not feel the same emotion for both things. If you don't take a stand, you will feel guilty because you did something that is not morally right. And if you take a stand and lose, you're going to feel regretful about not winning. And both have different impacts on you. And we have shown how you deal with different impacts of this emotion. Right? In one, you train to handle loss. You train to handle regret. You train to handle defeat. But in our role, no one is ever trained to handle guilt. That's why we believe it's a much better decision on your part to do that. But overall, we are also seeing in which world we have ensured you net benefit, right? That happens in our world. You have a better legacy. You leave behind a better legacy by fulfilling your commitment, by not being a coward like others, as the PM fulfilled. We also show you that look, in the best case scenario in our world, you win the World Cup and you come back satisfied without feeling guilty. In their world, in their absolute best case, they win the World Cup, but he comes back guilty. Ultimately, even if he doesn't have the full happiness, he's still going to feel sad. He's still going to feel guilty. This is something that they do not engage with, right? But overall, they sidetrack the debate by saying that how are you going to deal with your teams and everything else? Understand this. There's nothing. And so teams will still respect you, and we have proven you to the mechanism of that, right? We have also shown you that how love works. Right? If you know what type of love works, no one comes to World Cup expecting to just win. They play to be loved, to be fame, to be loved by the people, and to fulfill the demands of their fans. Understand this. In such cases, you're still going to be loved. You're still going to be placed higher than others, and the statement that you make will have a huge impact. Why is that? The final layer of our debate is showing why this action matters and why it's more likely to help the world, right? And why you should do it. The final layer is this: look, if you take a stand against Qatar that has been actively banning this, understand and and reminder of that any other action is not going to work. Why is that? We clearly told you, like, dude, this is something they banned the voices, right? Any other action is not going to be as impactful as standing against the very action that banned the voice, because in the other world, doing other things means you're still complying with the ban of the voice, right? Which is why we believe you should do that, as the ZPM clearly mentioned. And if you do that, you're going to inspire people. And if you do it, you're at least going to give people the validation they need. Your fans, the Muslim communities in the Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, they are going to feel validated. The LGBT communities there. Look, someone took a stand against us over there. Someone represent us. You're going to get more love, more fame, more attention, and that's ultimately going to make you feel more happy in the long run and more morally justified. Understand? Even if you feel imposter syndrome, you're still happy and you're still satisfied. That is what's most important in our world, and which is we believe the side government is the best house this debate and takes this debate home. Thank you, Prof.
Thank the speaker very much for that wonderful speech that also effectively ends this wonderful debate. Waiting on the ARCOM to take down the live stream. All right. So then the panel will now retire to the breakout rooms. Please stick around here. We will quickly deliberate